windows here. And I would now like to welcome my next guest into the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. He's been here before. Cranston Mayor Allan Fung.
How you doing, Kate?
Thanks for coming back. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me back here. You know, I had to fight that traffic, try to find a parking spot. That's why you've got to come to Cranston. Not only go local, but every single Rhode Islander come to Garden City, Chapel View, because we're the place to be. We are, you know, one of the top 50 best places to live in America. Providence doesn't have that distinction.
You make this stump speech every time you go someplace. You go to Newport, you say the same
Absolutely.
thing.
I go across the country. Absolutely. Always pitching Cranston because we've got a lot to offer. It's a lot of good things going on.
So
a lot of great food, too.
You did a lot of great food. What's the latest at Garden City and what?
Yeah, it's Anthony's Coal-Fire Pizza, you know, is up and running. That place is always packed, you know. Dan Marino, the Hall of Famer, came down and we cut the ribbon together, although I am partial to my boy TB12, you know, Tom Brady for all the Pats fans. I'm a Pats guy, you know, but still it is nice to be in the company of, you know, Hall of Famer Dan Marino is such a cool guy. He was there, cut the ribbon, all his fans came down, but that place is packed. If you haven't tried the pizza, try the Coal-Fire Pizza.
Coal-Fire Pizza.
Yeah, it's little. They're known for their well-done pizza, and they're also known for their wings. Great wings. I'm a wing guy.
Okay, I'm going to pull you over a little bit here.
Oh, sure.
Get a little away from me over here. So I've heard about that. Lots going on. Now, we had you in here probably earlier, mid-spring. There was that first time that you Skyped in from the... Skyped in from a snowplow when we were having snow, and we said we need to get the mayor back in, catch up on everything going on in Cranston because there is just so much going on. And I do want to start because it just happened yesterday. Again, it was the protesters for the public safety ordinance. Yeah. Now, the council approved the public safety ordinance. Again, this was with your support, and of course, the protesters have gone out and tried to sort of make a case for it. But that aside, how have you seen the ordinance sort of in real time, in real life in Cranston?
You know, it's working. It's definitely a lot safer on our streets. You know, we're not seeing those incidents where, you know, both people are in those medians, whether they're, you know, the cheerleaders, the firefighters, homeless, the religious groups, or anyone in there, interfering and distracting a lot of the drivers on our busy roadways. So it had taken effect. We had that one incident where the ACLU got together, organized, and protest. You know, they were being a little disingenuous, trying to say that it only applied to homeless people, that we're targeting homeless people, and it's not. Last time I was here, I really outlined what it's about, and it's about safety. And what I personally saw, where an individual who was in the middle of the roads that was in front of me on busy Reservoir Avenue, Route 2, in the middle of the road, soliciting, I think he was trying one of those church groups with the buckets. So he was going up car to car, never realized that the light had turned from red to green, and all of a sudden, when he finally saw the car starting passing by him, he's in the middle of the road, jumps in front of a car, forces the car to screech to a halt. I witnessed it and also captured it on my iPhone with the photos, and this is what it was designed to prevent, anyone getting hurt.
So have you seen this? Is the word on the street, is there just not as much activity at intersections as there was prior to the ordinance?
Right, there's not as much activity going on in Cranston, and it's a blessing because we are keeping people safe. You know, safe from distracted driving, safe for anyone that's entering our roadways. There are more safer places to do the type of, you know, requests that people are in. And, you know, from overall standpoint, when we're talking about the homeless issue, there's a better way to do it, providing them with any help, social service help, any treatment that they need, rather than putting them on corners or in unsafe medians or anywhere else on busy intersections and roadways to ask for money. That's not an appropriate way to do it. But this ordinance applies to everyone. We worked with our attorneys to narrow it down from the ordinance that we applied previously. It's not overly broad. We even narrowed the intersections that it applies to. So we feel very confident about it, despite the ACLU saying that they're going to challenge us in federal court.
So we're going to be keeping an eye on that. And as you said, it never was intended, and from your wording, it was not to be anti-panhandling, because folks can actually panhandle other places and it not be an opposition to this ordinance. But when folks say, Mayor, you're not doing enough, you need to do more for these folks, I mean, what's your answer? You talk about providing those services, but what has Cranston done lately to, again, help the most needy, would you say?
No, we're doing a lot of different things. You know, we support CCAP, Comprehensive Community Action. program. We have a great partnership with them to provide services, whether it's GED type services or any other type of fundamental help that people need. Their food pantry are always running low, so we're doing whatever we can to help support them in their mission. We're also doing it with our community development block grant monies that we get. You know, with revolving loans that we can provide, you know, for first-time home buyers or any type of assistance on that type of front. Cranston Housing, you know, we have different ways to help a lot of people in need, and it should not be, you know, people trying to make a living or, you know, being in dangerous intersections trying to survive in that way, because that's not the way that society should be treating homeless individuals or any other individuals, whether it's the cheerleaders, firefighters, to go ask for money in unsafe places. The ordinance was now taken so that they have appropriate places to do it.
So I think my next few questions are going to be a little road-centric, so we're going on a theme here.
Sure.
A lot of big flap over the Roger Williams Park and the Cranston neighbors next to that one-way road. We actually had one of them here in studio. We're the first media to report on this. They were very concerned about how this transpired. Where are we now? They put the one-way in and it's sort of wait and see. Could it have been done better?
It could have been done a lot better. But most importantly, it could have been done with communication, because that's what was so frustrating to myself and all the Cranston residents, the lack of communication that came from Providence to us. Because when you're changing road patterns, and we get it, they're doing some noble things to improve biking, improve access in the parks to runners and everyone else. But when you're making traffic changes that have an impact on many of those side streets that are in Cranston and funneling more cars into it to make it a more dangerous situation, particularly with 3 weeks left in school for many of our elementary school, middle schools. There's a little league field, there's a football field that's there. Many of the kids that are in school currently, that's not thought out and not being a good neighbor. And that's why many people are frustrated. And the part that really gets me is I haven't even heard from Mayor Laza outside of just, you know, seeing him, you know, on television. Pick up the phone. In my 9 years as mayor, this is the worst treatment that I've had from any other, you know, colleague in government. And it's not right. All we had to do was just work together so that you can meet your goals of providing better bike access, better runnings for your park.
Yes.
But we're willing to work together.
So I'm sure keeping the lines of communications open with constituents, is it just sort of a wait and see at this point? Do they see increased traffic? Are they having problems?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're hearing from a lot of the residents, and to make sure that our students are safe, because we have a few weeks left of school, we've asked our crossing guards, patrol officers in that area to keep an extra eye out.
Yeah.
We are hearing about the increased wait times. That first day, the first couple of days, you had people ignoring the one-way signs and driving, you know, in contravention of it. We saw Providence police officers stopping people in the park. And if that's, and we're also seeing increase in the time delay from one area on Warwick Avenue heading west onto Park Avenue, where all these schools are. We're hearing about people blowing through stop signs and cutting through more on these side streets. So those realities are happening to Cranston, and that's why we asked them to slow it down to do a real traffic impact. And when we finally got the so-called traffic studies from Providence, it wasn't a traffic study. All it did was count the cars as it exists currently. Didn't even take a look at the impact to Providence once it's changed to a one-way. And it certainly didn't even consider Cranston.
So do you expect to have maybe a seat at the table moving forward if this has to be revisited, muscling your way in and saying, I know it's Roger Williams Park, I know it's Providence, but it impacts Cranston?
And I'm going to keep doing whatever I can to, be the voice of opposition for my residents and also Providence residents, because we held a community meeting. Over 100 people showed up, and it wasn't just Cranston.
Wasn't just Cranston.
It was Providence too, and even the Providence City Council put in a resolution with the councilwoman in that area saying, wait a minute, this isn't right. I was told there was no opposition to this.
Well, there clearly was. As we said, we had it here in studio, so I appreciate you telling us a little bit about what's going on there. As I said, road theme, kind of want to get maybe a little outside Cranston, go to some statewide issues.
Sure.
Repeal of the car tax.
Yeah,
they're considering it again this week. Well, again, they're considering it this week. Speaker Mattiello very much for it. Can the state afford it?
Well, one of the things that I am glad that the speaker is, taking into consideration the budget shortfalls that our current governor is leaving us. That's what's really frustrating to me. Before we start implementing her new programs, her wish list of free education that's on our backs, let's take a thoughtful approach. And that's why, I'm glad the speaker took into consideration the shortfalls that he's seeing. Instead of originally going with the 5-year, he's increased it to now a 6-year phase out, but a complete phase out, because we've heard on the campaign trail from everyone, not even just in Cranston, but everyone across the state, how bad the car tax really hits people. But we're going to have to do it in a thoughtful approach. I think that the speaker's approach is extremely thoughtful. He's trying to do the best he can to phase this in and do it in a thoughtful process, both with the exemption as well as the value.
Now, do you get the sense, this has been tried before, and when the economy turned, they sort of just went, whoops, okay, we've got to take this little, the carrot away because we just can't afford it. Now, you hit upon something that was going to be talked about a little later, but I want to talk about it now. Again, these deficits. The May estimating conference coming in 90 million below what was expected. So there's kind of two schools of thought that we hear right now. We hear from folks that say, oh, this is just an aberration that's actually going to be better next year. Don't worry, things are going to be fine. There's also folks saying, it might be the tip of the iceberg, and if we continue along with the policies that we're doing, it might actually get worse. So what is your sense as to where the state's going? Was this a one-time, or is this something that should be a serious consideration of what's to come and be of concern to Rhode Islanders?
I'll tell you what it is. It's failed leadership and weak management on the part of the governor. How do you have at least a $90 million revenue shortfall, because most likely you overestimated on your budget. On top of that, let's not forget the overspending by over $30 million, so that total deficit is
closer
up and close to the 135.
Yep.
So that's a total. But here's where I call, really failed and weak leadership from the governor. And unless we get a new governor in place that's willing to tackle the strong financial and implement strong financial policies, we're going to be in trouble over and over again, year after year. Because instead of rolling up our sleeve, like what we've done in Cranston, to address financial issues, make cuts if it has to be made, or not start new programs, or even talk about starting new programs, she sat there and blamed the president, a person who's been in office for 100 days at that time, and then kicked the can to the General Assembly while the budget's in their hand. And then we see 2 days ago, she ends up putting in an additional $60 million in spending. So you're talking about potentially upwards of $200 million in debt that the state could be overall. We can't afford to start any new programs, certainly not even discuss it. And we see her just constantly running these TV commercials. Oh, let me correct that. Not her. Her so-called Democratic Governors Association that's doing it on her behalf, from her corporate donors from outside of Rhode Island that have nothing to do but just fund her future career.
So do you think there was a disconnect, because people have pointed against these Democratic Governors Association ads, again, a disconnect between what folks maybe in D.C. might be hearing and not knowing the reality of what's actually taking place here in Rhode Island?
And I think, what I said to the New York Times in the past about failed leadership from this administration holds true. She's better perceived outside the state than received in state. I'm out there with residents, not only in Cranston, but all throughout the state, with a lot of different organizations that I'm involved with, charitable organizations, and I hear it from every single individual in every single industry about how she's hurt people in our state. And that's not, the appropriate way the government should be done. If you take a step back, why is Cranston one of the best places to live? Because we made the tough financial decisions when we were facing deficits when I first came into office. Now that we're on sound financial footing with an improved bond rating, now we can afford to invest more into our roads, into our school buildings, into our parks, and create an atmosphere where people want to grow and live. Like I said before, we almost caught Warwick as the second largest city. There's a reason, because we're doing the right things, and that's how the state needs to operate.
So speaking of eyeing the chief executive's position, when are you going to make a decision?
Look, it's a long time away before we have to make any decision. It's still early in the process. 18 months away. Like I said before, standard response,
Number
47. You're going up to 47 now.
It's been
it's getting up there now. We'll have more to say about that later.
Well, again, whether it's you or another chief executive who comes into office in 2019, what would you say, if it's not the current governor, what would you say should be doing differently from day one in 2019?
Take care of Rhode Islanders first, and make sure that the services that are in place now are taken care of. Because right now, what we've seen is just a pattern of not taking care of our own and hurting, not even not taking care of, hurting Rhode Islanders, whether it's the failed UHIP rollout that we've seen that's costing us even more money, whether it's the 10 to 12 either deaths or near deaths at DCYF. You know, the list just goes on and on and on. We've got to take care of our own, do it the right way, focus on Rhode Island first, focus on your job. Do your job is the best model that I follow every single day. I love Bill Belichick.
The Belichick acolyte over here.
I'm a disciple of Bill. Bill Belichick, you are my hero. But that's so true. If you focus, just like we've been focused on Cranston, with businesses, the residents that are there, you will succeed. Get yourself out, lift yourself out. People feel pride in living in a place. That's what we have to do in Rhode Island as well.
So I was going down the list of issues on the statewide level, and this just happened to sort of jump in and supersede for the bigger picture. But let's go to a big issue that really has taken attention for folks. The most recent proposal from the Paw Sox owners that we saw fell flat. Once again, we have not quite, but there could be some life left to it. But the Senate President saying, again, at the 11th hour, too late in the game, maybe a fall session. What's your take about their second bite of the apple? And you're in Cranston. A lot of folks say, you know, Pawtucket's Pawtucket. We can see why residents there support it. But when people around the state hear this proposal, what's your sense of where we are right now, and where things, in your opinion, where they should go?
You know, one of the things I feel for Mayor Grevian, you know, I've known Mayor Grevian for a long time. I think he's still trying to pull that knife out of his back from Governor Raimondo. And I think most of Pawtucket feels that way too. So, you know, the Paw Sox are an institution, but for me, you don't have to necessarily do special deals for an entity, an organization to keep them here. And you certainly don't have to, you know, cut and basically bribe is, you know, the mantra that we're seeing coming out of Commerce RI for new companies out of state to come here. Take a look at how we've been successful in Cranston. You know, I'm proud of the fact, and I say it all the time, Garden City and Chapel View, not one single special deal or tax dollar went to either one of those developments. You can build it in the right way. People will come, so long as they know they have a chief executive who's willing to work with them, cut through the red tape, and make sure the business gets open on time and, you know, they're supported by their government.
Okay, I've got a couple maybe rapid fire questions to follow up with you on here. Former Representative Joe Trillo, effective Republican leader or not?
Yeah. Joe, he's a Republican. I've worked with him a long time. Nice enough guy, you know.
That's the extent of where he made, again, the overtures today that he was thinking of perhaps a run. Any particular areas that you might disagree with Joe on, or you'd have to kind of go through maybe piece by piece and say?
It's way too early to tell, you know, and like I said, the governor's race is a long race, a long ways away. We haven't even got to the starting line yet, so
we're in cycle.
Yeah, I know. The news media loves to have the cycle, but you know what? We'll have, you know, plenty enough to say later on.
So let's talk national politics. Joe Trillo, a Trump supporter. To date, if you were to give the president a letter grade of his performance to date?
Too early to tell. Just like with Governor Raimondo, I'm fair. You know, during that first year, I didn't give her a letter grade. I said it's incomplete because you just don't know yet. You're not even you're just into 100 days into administration, so it's way too early to tell, you know, give anyone a letter grade.
What are you hearing from residents in Cranston when they talk with you and they talk maybe about Trump? You know, healthcare, you know, passed the House, in the Senate. It seems like a lot of foreign relations and investigations are maybe keeping that at bay. But what are you hearing on the healthcare front? What needs to be done from Washington?
I'm not hearing from Cranston residents about any of those national issues. What I'm hearing about is right now it's getting into road paving season and they want their streets paved. And believe me, we're doubling the amount of roads, Cranston. We're out there. We're going to get that done. They're, you know, angry about Roger Williams Park. They want to, you know, be able to get a table at Twin Oaks because, you know, it's starting to get back up and running with a lot of
Wait, do people think that they can get a table if they call you for Twin Oaks?
They think they call the mayor's office for everything, so whether we can control it or not. So, you know, we're happy to respond. We're happy to take any calls, and we're happy to be there to do whatever we can. But sorry, folks, I can't get you a table at Twin Oaks.
You can't get me a table at Twin Oaks?
If you're with me, we'll see what you can do.
A table at Twin Oaks. So here we are, at the beginning of June. about halfway through the year. What's on your plate, speaking of Twin Oaks? What's on the plate? What's on the Cranston plate for the rest of the year?
Now, we've got more business that's going on. What we're also working on is solar. As you know, we've touted all along, we've taken a very active role, put together an ordinance on solar to allow a lot more flexibility with these developments to be ongoing. We have potentially upwards of 3 large solar projects, one of which could be the largest in the state of Rhode Island. And on top of that, you know, we entered into working with Solarize RI to have a Solarize Cranston, so that hopefully some of the homeowners in our city can take advantage of some of the savings with solar. Maybe if they can generate enough electricity, sell it back into the grid so that it's, you know, they have a potential to cut down on their electric bills and even pass along, you know, some of the savings to others.
Okay, so the solar, and it's summertime. What do you think's best about summer at Cranston?
You know, we've got a great festival that's coming up just this weekend, Gatsby Days. It's a lot of fun. You know, we've got 2 main festivals that are really pretty big in Cranston that we're known for a number of years. Gatsby's one of them. That's this weekend. We're going to be marching in the parade, celebrating the real start of our revolution. Not this little tea party that Boston wants to always claim, but you know, for true Rhode Islanders, we know what Gatsby's about. We know about our pride in our moment in history, and that's one of the celebrations. But also, everyone loves the St. Mary's Feast Society. It's a religious festival that we all have an opportunity to come together as family to celebrate our faith. You know, and everyone knows that I just converted to be a Catholic about a year ago. So it's important to me that we have an opportunity to celebrate at the St. Mary's Feast in their society that's going to be upcoming. But there's more to come too. Even international events like the 4th of July, even though everyone loves the parade that comes in Bristol, we have the band competition for the 2nd year in a row at Cranston Stadium. So if you haven't checked it out, phenomenal performances from many of these individuals all across the country right here in Cranston.
And what day does that take place on?
It's July 4th weekend.
That's the weekend.
That's the week. I think it's the 3rd. Before.
It's a Tuesday that falls on.
Yeah, so it'd be probably the Monday, July 3rd.
Before. Are you going to go swimming at the Bud Long Pool?
Absolutely. Bud Long Pool. Kids love the tradition. Kids love pushing me into. So I'm anticipating getting wet. I'm going to have to make sure I'm not in a full suit that day, but it's a lot of fun.
So you got the feast, you got the swimming. We're going to be awaiting when there might be some announcements coming from you. Is there anything in Cranston going on right now that we didn't touch upon?
No, a lot's going on.
You know,
we cover even food because I'm the foodie. I love it going on. Even throw in some football, you know, because we're, you know, mini camps are going now. Love Bill Belichick and everything else.
It's going to be a good year.
It's going to be a great year. I'm excited for it.
A good year.
Red Sox are doing okay. They're in 2nd place, 2 games behind. So.
Get up to a rocky start.
They weren't hitting as much, but I see some young, nice talent that's on the horizon.
Have you gotten up for a game yet?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Looking forward to it.
On the horizon, if you can ever
get out? On the horizon, but you know, I'm trying to at least for this year, maybe break out the golf clubs and at least get in one round, hopefully, because I didn't get a chance to last year because of our election.
Well, you know, I don't think next summer you might have some time on your hands as much as you do this one.
I like the wink on that one.
We'll see moving forward, but I appreciate your coming back in with these chance to catch up on everything going on in Cranston, as all eyes, Mayor, kind of on you to see if and when you make a move on 18.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, don't forget, come to Cranston.
Always makes the play. Mayor Fung,
right.
I appreciate your coming in.
Thanks.
I'll let you go back out. Where'd you park? In the lot across the street?
And a lot across the street. So.
I saw you chatting with folks. That's what happens down here in Providence. Okay, Mayor Allan Fung makes his return to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. We've actually kind of talked with the mayor 2 times already. He Skyped in once from Cranston from a snowplow to keep us up to speed when he was supposed to be in studio. But so much has happened since we talked last. We want to talk about the impact of the public safety ordinance that has been challenged. The ACLU and protesters were facing court time yesterday, again looking now at July, but ACLU is going to be challenging that, talking about the brouhaha at Roger Williams Park, changing one of the roads that's technically in Providence to one way, spills out over onto Cranston streets. We had that here in the Go Local studio before to talk about. We'll continue to follow that now that it is one way. And of course, he had a lot to say about the performance of current Governor Gina Raimondo. Again, former opponent of the governor's for the gubernatorial run back in 2014. We're looking to see if and when Mayor Fung makes the announcement about 18. Did have to ask him about Joe Trillo, the former rep who made, again, additional overtures today that he might be looking and eyeing a Republican run. But Mayor Fung really didn't have much to say. So we'll be keeping tabs on Mayor Fung moving